Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most shocking events of the entire Russia-Ukraine conflict, an explosion so massive, so symbolic, and so globally significant that people around the world called it the blast heard across the world. This is the story of how the Crimea Bridge, one of Russia's most important, expensive, and politically symbolic structures, was suddenly obliterated in a fiery attack that has changed the entire direction of the war, and what happened afterward is even more shocking. The moment the explosion happened, everything in Russia came to a standstill. Phones buzzed, social media exploded, and even Russian state media struggled to explain what had just taken place. The bridge that Vladimir Putin personally opened, the bridge he called a forever connection between Russia and Crimea, was suddenly burning, broken, and collapsing into the water. For many Russians, this wasn't just an attack on a structure. It was an attack on their pride, their belief in control, and their sense of stability. But the real story behind the explosion goes far deeper than a single moment. It's about strategy, secrets, weapon technology, intelligence leaks, supply chains, morale, politics, and the psychological side of war. So today, we're going step by step into what actually happened, why the attack mattered so much, and how it reshaped both Ukraine's strategy and Russia's future. When the explosion first hit, the shockwave reached far beyond Crimea. Satellite imagery captured the moment the fireball erupted, and within minutes, analysts around the world began comparing the blast size with previous attacks. Many experts agreed that the explosion was no ordinary strike. It was precise, timed, and designed to cause maximum disruption to the structure. Some even suggested that it could not have been executed without extremely high-level intelligence and coordination. For Ukraine, the bridge had always been more than just a physical link. It was Russia's main supply route to move fuel, ammunition, troops, armored vehicles, and food to the southern front. Every truck that crossed the bridge supported Russian operations in Kherson, Melitopol, and the surrounding regions. So when the bridge fell silent after the explosion, thousands of Russian soldiers suddenly found their supply line cut off or heavily delayed. The impact on Russia's battlefield momentum was immediate, but the political impact was even bigger. For years, Russia had used the bridge as proof that Crimea was permanently theirs. It was a symbol of dominance. So, when it was destroyed not once, but repeatedly, it sent a message that even Russia's strongest symbols are vulnerable. That message spread across the world like wildfire. Inside the Kremlin, the atmosphere reportedly turned tense. Officials scrambled to release statements, but every new piece of footage made the situation look worse. Cars dangling over broken concrete, steel beams twisted from the heat, giant sections missing completely. Russia claimed they would repair it quickly, but engineers quietly admitted the damage was far more serious than early reports suggested. Even temporary repairs struggled under the weight of heavy military vehicles. Meanwhile, Ukraine celebrated cautiously, calling the attack a turning point in the war. International analysts agreed destroying a major route isn't just a tactical win, it's psychological warfare. It makes the enemy question their safety, their infrastructure, and their ability to protect what they claim is theirs. And the world watched closely, because Russia's reaction was just as important as the attack itself. Within hours, Russia launched a massive wave of missile strikes across Ukraine, targeting cities far from the front line. But even those retaliatory attacks couldn't reverse the damage done. The bridge remained crippled, the supply lines remained crippled, and Russia's confidence remained shaken. What came next was unexpected, a desperate search by Russia to find alternative routes. They turned to ferries, slow transport lines, and long detours through occupied land. But none of them matched the efficiency of the bridge. This forced Russian commanders to rethink their entire logistics strategy, slowing operations and making them more predictable. For Ukraine, this meant an opening, an opportunity to push harder in certain areas where Russian troops were undersupplied. But perhaps the most surprising twist in the entire event came from Russia's own citizens. Many were furious. Some blamed the military, others blamed intelligence agencies, and some even blamed Putin himself. For a country tightly controlled by state narratives, this moment of public frustration was something Russia did not expect. Comment sections filled with anger, fear, and disbelief. The cracks in the story, literal and symbolic, were visible to the world. As international pressure grew, Russia promised to reinforce the bridge with better defenses. But satellite images later showed that many of these defenses were rushed, incomplete, or poorly placed. And then came the rumors. Some insiders claimed Russia feared another attack, even more devastating than the first. Whether true or not, fear itself changed the dynamic. Meanwhile, Ukraine gained something priceless: momentum. The world began praising the strike as one of the most daring and strategic operations of the war. Military experts around the globe began analyzing every angle: how the attack was planned, what weapon was used, how much intelligence support Ukraine had, and what message it sent to Russia and its allies. What made the attack even more dramatic was the timing. It happened when Russia was already facing internal pressure, economic strain, recruitment problems, and rising casualties. So this strike, at that exact moment, acted like fuel on an already burning situation. Suddenly, Russia wasn't just fighting a war on the ground. It was fighting embarrassment, fear, and uncertainty. As more details emerged, analysts began calling this attack a blueprint for modern warfare. Not just explosions and missiles, but precision, symbolism, psychological impact, and strategic timing. And when you combine all of these factors, the shock spreads far beyond the battlefield. That's exactly why this event is still talked about today, as the blast heard across the world. And so, as we look back at the event, the question becomes, what happens next? Will there be more strikes? Will Russia respond more aggressively? Will Ukraine push further to weaken Russian logistics? Or will this event trigger political changes inside Russia itself? Whatever comes next, one thing is clear. The destruction of the Crimea Bridge was not just another attack. It was a moment that exposed weaknesses, shifted momentum, and changed the narrative of the war. It forced Russia to face consequences it never expected, and it gave Ukraine a moment of strength the world could not ignore. This was more than a blast. It was more than a strike. It was a message, one heard not only in Moscow or Kiev, but in Washington, London, Brussels, Beijing, and every capital watching the conflict unfold. And that is why experts call it one of the most defining moments of the war.